Hey, welcome back to my channel. Hope you're good. Today it's another bookish video. When isn't it? I love books. Today I'm going through my top reads of 2023. It took me a while to prepare for this video because I've got 21 books that were about 5 stars for me and I want to share them with you and see a few of you add them to your lists maybe. Many people at my work, my friends, my family, they ask me like, I like this genre, or what book would you recommend? And I'm always recommending stuff. So these are my favourite ones. A lot of them left an impact on me and I still think about them. One in particular I think about daily, no word of a lie. And yeah, I just thought I would go through them each today. I'll try and be as succinct as possible compared to this introduction. But yeah, I've got at least 21 books, so we'll see if I can fit this into one whole video, or it might be 2 parts. We'll see. I can't predict the future. Now, to prepare for this video, I went back through my Goodreads, so it means going all the way back to the start of 2023 and going back through my 5-star reads. I have a few of the books with me today, but most of them are either up north or I've given them away up north with my family, or I've given them away just because I don't have space or I'm hoarding more books. And I'm in a flat, so I can't shove more books in. So I've got to make use of the space I've got. But I will show you the few I do have. And the first one is Novelist as a Vocation by Haruki Murakami. Now, I've spoken about this in my recent video with recent books I got. So you'll see I spoke about it briefly. I'm rereading it because I read the hardback. Is basically, if you're trying to write a novel, this is the one for you. Or if you're just interested in the process of how he writes his books. He's won many prizes, written many novels, and it's just friggin' inspiring. Really enjoy that, and I'm going back through it and highlighting some of the bits too. So just so you get an idea, right there, I'm inspired, and yeah, I would recommend this to anyone who is interested in the writing process or is aspiring to be an author as well. So that was 21. Number 20 is, where shall I move? Here? I don't know. Yeah, number 20 is Cleopatra and Frankenstein by Coco Mellors. She's also got a book coming out, I think, in the first half of this year, which looks so cool, Blue Sisters, and I'm seeing really good things about it. But Cleopatra and Frankenstein follows Cleo and Frank. He is much older than her, and I think she is British American, and it also kind of links to Coco Mellors herself, because she was, I can't remember if she's either born in America and then moved to Britain or the other way around. Yeah, kind of like little bits of her own life in there, but a love story between the two. Cleo is very young. Frank is like, I think 15 or 20 years older than her. But I remember reading this down by the beach, and it was March, I think, and it was just about getting warm again. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I read it in a few days. It is like dense. I just remember really enjoying it, and it was quite nostalgic. I think it's like New Year's 2006 or something like that. I read it nearly a year ago, so I've forgotten a bit of it, but I just remember it made me feel like really good, really nostalgic, like vibes, ups and downs. And then you'll see, because they get married, does their marriage work because of the age difference and stuff, and then dealing with like past relationships, friendships, and just growing up in New York as well. Number 19 is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Jenkins Reid. This, of course, I've seen everywhere. Like most people on like Instagram or Book Talk have like read it. I don't think I need to go into it more, but it follows a young journalist, writer. She's been selected to interview this film star. She's now in her 70s or something. Evelyn Hugo, a Cuban, then moved to a USA actress. I like some of Jenkins Reid's stuff, how it's like, it almost seems like an autobiography, but the character is not real, yet it's so believable. I find her writing really easy to read. The story is so compelling, and I like the difference in it being told from the journalist's point of view and then Evelyn Hugo's point of view in a way, and going through each of her 7 husbands, what happened with her life, why is everyone so interested in her, but more specifically, why has this journalist been selected to interview Evelyn Hugo herself and not someone else. Last year I read a few of her books, but that was by far my favourite one as well. And my friend actually recommended that to me, so the other way around. And now I am recommending it back to all of you as well if you haven't read it. So yeah, I really enjoyed that one. Number 18 is a Graham Norton novel. I think I've got 2 on this list, but this one is Homestretch. I have to be careful not to mix it up with this other one. I don't know if this has been made. No, that's another one I'm thinking of, TV show. But this, it's like full of Irish wit and humour and like dark comedic wit like Graham Norton is known for. I love how all of his novels are set in Ireland. I mean, I'm currently reading an Irish novel, and yeah, I just really enjoy novels set in Ireland and written by Irish authors. This one flicks between the past and present, and it follows, I think it's around 6 people. Yeah, flicking between the two, and there was a tragedy back in the past and what its impact is having now, but then you're following different timelines and different threads of characters, and you're wondering, how are they all interlinked? Because you wouldn't have the author writing about them in some way. But I just love how he keeps the pace going, he keeps the wit going and the story. And yeah, I just love all of his books. I think I've only got one more left of his to read, Holding, which is a BBC series. But yeah, I just love everything he's written so far, and I looked forward to reading it. It was one of those books. So yeah, really recommend if you're into Irish novels, and it's just a good, I wouldn't say cozy crime, but it's a cozy thriller in a way, with some crime aspects or different perspectives that seem a bit sus. I don't know how to describe it, but really good. And just goes back to the theme of family as well, which he just like nails to the point. Number 17, now this one isn't out until February because it is an advanced reader copy. I requested it on NetGalley. It was my first experience with an ARC. This is The List of Suspicious Things by Jennie Godfrey. This is pretty cozy and it's pretty cool, and it's a debut from Jennie Godfrey. It's set in Yorkshire around the time of Margaret Thatcher was in power and the Yorkshire Ripper, and it follows young Miv. I don't know if she's 12 or 13 years old, and her friend Sharon, and then it just deals with all the things going on in Yorkshire, and it kind of brought me back to my Yorkshire roots. And yeah, I love going up there, but it's just like all the lyricisms and everything. Is that even a word? And just like the wittiness of it all, the Yorkshire wit, "ow do," and all those kinds of things. But even though it is told from the perspective of a teenager, and it does flip between third person as well, it's not like childish at all. Yes, there is some naivety from Miv's perspective, but it does deal with like the innocence of, yes, you're living in like the 1970s or whatever, or is it 80s? I'm not too sure. But how does the real world look like through a young girl teenager's eyes? As well as that, it deals with her mum and her dad, who, because of everything going on, her dad gets a new job as well offered to her. But also there are some family things going on. Her mum is quite bedridden, but there is a reason for that. And then I'd say keep an eye out for Sharon as well, because she isn't just some second person in the story. She means a lot to me and has a big part as well. And there's also a third character that comes along, and you deal with themes of racism, family, and just growing up. And if you don't know me by now, I love a coming of age novel, and yeah, I really enjoyed this, and I look forward to people reading this in February. It is a good one. 16 is Dolly Alderton's Good Material. I had been on the lookout for this, and I reserved it from the library, and I was on that. I read that in a few days, and I literally laughed aloud reading this book. It's full of classic Dolly narration and wit and just humour and just those one-liners as well. It follows a couple who have split, and the guy, mostly from his perspective, and how he's trying to, one, make it as a comedian, but two, also work out what went wrong with his relationship with his girlfriend, who suddenly announced she just wanted to split. It's so odd, like this guy is having like a midlife crisis in a way. He moves in with some of his friends, then moves in on a boat, then he moves in with an old guy. Really strange, but he seems a bit lost. He's trying to make it into the comedic scene, but he's not very good. Whilst also he's got on the back of his mind trying to deal with his girlfriend, who he sees here and there, and then we find out eventually like why it happened. But all throughout you've got a pretty good solid comedic story along the way. And yeah, like I said, I was laughing aloud. I was reading this next to my boyfriend in bed. I was like, ah, just those things. Yeah, classic Dolly Alderton. I think that's all of her fiction books I've read now, so I would just recommend any of them if you're up for a laugh and you want something easygoing and just really easy to read. I whizzed through this in just a few days. Number 15, I forgot I read this last year. It feels like ages ago, is The Castaways by Lucy Clarke. This was in the Waterstones Book of the Month, I think the year before, in 2022. I saw it everywhere, then I found it in a charity shop. And recently, mixed feelings on this, I tried to watch the Paramount series. I've spoken about my unfortunate dislike for that. I just think because the books, I say books because I've just read No Escape by Lucy Clarke as well, and that is also on Paramount. I think it's because the books, one, are just so good, and two, nothing can beat your imagination, and three, just the production just didn't seem great. But that's easy for me to say just sitting here when they're doing all the acting work and stuff. I just thought it wasn't the best compared to what was up here. Yeah, The Castaways, it follows Erin and Laurie at different times. So let me try and get this right. Erin and Laurie are sisters. They were meant to go on a plane together to this resort near New Zealand or Australia. Laurie made it onto the plane, Erin didn't. Laurie's plane crashed, and Erin is convinced that she's somehow surviving after piecing all these clues together. And it just follows their relationship there, Erin trying to solve things, and then alternate perspectives of what happened before the crash, and then Erin trying to solve it as well. I think I've got that the right way. Really recommend it. It really kept me on my toes, and I read read it in a few days. I gave it like 4 or 5 stars. And I remember reading Lucy Clarke saying she really struggled with this and had to do a few goes at the manuscript before getting it right. And I can see it's like been perfected, like the logistics of it all and having to write it and then think where XYZ happened, like blows my mind, and made me feel really isolated reading this. And that's when you know you're really into a book. Yeah, I really enjoyed this one. It's like I say, I really enjoy each of the books. I really did, but I don't know what other adjective to use to describe that feeling. 14 is The Only Suspect by Louise Candlish. This is another charity shop find, and I even managed to get it signed by Louise Candlish herself when I went to the Harrogate Book Festival earlier this year. I'll link it below, up here, if I can. And yeah, this book, I read The Only Passenger at the start of the year as well, of 2023, I think. And that I just blew my mind, as did this one, like, again, changing perspectives and everything and timelines. And it follows, I don't know if, I'll try and get the names right. There was Rocco or Rick and then someone else. So it's between past and present. And again, I don't know if it's like, she always does this. It's like, do you have a reliable narrator or not? You never know what you're going to get. And there is such a dark turn. They are so like, her crime novels are like just so compelling and twisty. Like I said, just so dark. Like you get like cozy-ish crime that I read, but these are just like, imagine if they're so realistic. It's like, imagine if this happened. She's gone through to the details and then playing mind tricks with you as you try to spot, or like me, you're always trying to think, you can't trick me. She tricked me. And this just blew my mind. I was like, what is going on here? And I'm just suspicious of everyone. I don't even know where to start with this one because it's set in the present. It follows this guy, his wife, and the girl's moved in with them. She's pregnant. He's not sure of her, but he's clearly trying to hide something and he doesn't like this girl. I don't really know. And then it flicks back to the past where this guy is dealing with this woman he's been having an affair with and he gets into some troubles. And then I was always wondering, how did these link back? What is the relevance? So yeah, keeps you on your toes before the sucker punch right at the end. 13 is The Remains of the Day by Kazuo Ishiguro. Now, if you don't know, I have a few of his books here, and I've read a few of them as well, and Clara and the Sun, which I don't have here. But I really enjoyed Never Let Me Go. It is another bleak book. I love it. This one, Remains of the Day, I can't just begin to like do it justice at how beautifully written this book was. I love Ishiguro's novels anyway. I think he's one of the best writers I've ever read, and I can't wait to read the rest of his books too. But it's just the way he reflects on memory. It follows a butler dealing with his time between past and present, but not like our present now, but more like shifted back to after his time as a butler, and then thinking back to when he was working during the war, I think. I can't remember if it was World War I or World War II, and the lord he was serving in this big like manor house. During that, he reflects on his time with Miss Kenton, who kind of gives it back to him when she's there to basically serve alongside him in this manor house. And yeah, I love the like banter in between the two. It was actually, I listened to the audiobook mostly, narrated by Dominic West, the perfect narrator for this, really posh, and just like gave it this character like pure life. And then I watched the BBC adaptation as well. Obviously, TV adaptations and movies and stuff don't include all of the book, but it did pretty well. I think it has Anthony Hopkins, but yes, the book, it reflects on memory. Really lovely read. I don't really know what else to say about it, but I read it and I was like, wow, what an amazing piece of literature. So if you're into the ones that reflect on memory, I think that's why I really like Never Let Me Go as well, because it reflects on childhood, and then you begin to realise things aren't what they seem as you grow up, or begin to look back on your past self as well. So yeah, I really, really like that one. That was one of my like top of my 5 stars. Yeah, and again, my friend, she read that as well, and she was like, yeah, that was pretty awesome. So if you've got the patience, I know it's a bit literary-ish, add it to your to be read. You will not regret it. Number 12 is a recent 5-star read. I read it at the very end of 2023. It is Fool Me Once by Harlan Coben. I included this in my December books, I think, so I won't go too much into it. I didn't like the Netflix series, but the book I finished in like 2 or 3 days. Really good 5 stars. It's the first book of his I've read. It follows Maya. Her husband's been killed, but she sees him on the nanny cam. What happened? Is he really alive, or is he still dead? As we think, is everything as it seems? You're left on cliffhanger after cliffhanger after cliffhanger. And it's set in the US, which is why I think the UK Netflix thing was a bit weird. But overall, really amazing first experience with a Coben novel. So if you're going to read any of them and you haven't already, I'd recommend that one. So I'm going to try others after this, but I've got a few to go at the minute. So yes, really good experience. Next. Number 11, I'm really surprised this was in here. It is The Switch by Beth O'Leary. I read this on my Kindle. It has been on there for yonks, and I enjoyed the flat share, and I did like the flat share, which was on Paramount. That was a really good adaptation. Yeah, The Switch, I switched between the audiobook and the actual book on my Kindle, where I think Daisy Edgar Jones, who was in Normal People, narrates a young girl. So it's like between a young girl in her flat, I say young girl, young woman, in her flat. She's been signed off sick from work for like 2 months for stress and everything, and her grandma, who is in, I don't know if it's like Yorkshire or Lincolnshire, but in a tiny village, they swap, and it's basically, it brings out the best in each other, and also just deals with like, 1, finding themselves again, 2, dealing with their new situationships, and 3, relationships. What better than a relationship in a Beth O'Leary novel? Oh my gosh, I got that as a right tongue twister. But yeah, that is up there with the flat share, which I really enjoyed. And again, just really easygoing, just a really nice, comforting read. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. Really cozy, really warm, and it's like a hug in a mug. This editing might be a bit abrupt to part 1, just because I finished the whole video and I realised that I need to cut this in half because it is nearly an hour long, and I want you to see both parts. And there are some good recommendations on here, if I say so myself. So yeah, for now, I'm going to split this in 2. There'll be part 2 coming soon. And yeah, if you like this, please give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe so you can be aware of the next video, and I look forward to seeing you in that one. See you then.